Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone, and I am so excited to introduce you to Colin Joe Byrne. And Colin, hi. Thank you for coming.
Hi,
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. So Colin lives in South Africa, and I was lucky enough to go there a couple years ago because my daughter was in the Peace Corps for 3 years in Namibia. And a friend and I went over and we took a tour, got to go to Kruger, got to go all over. So I have a big place in my heart for where you live.
Yeah,
And actually, that was one of the first places humanity was developed, was created. So
yeah,
it's wonderful to have you share your information. So everyone, I wanted you to know about Colin because I have been following him for, I would say, 4 months, 5 months, maybe longer. First, I found him on Facebook, and then Carrie Samadi was doing a weekly show with him and had quite a few shows with him. And his information, I knew parts of it because of my journey, but I didn't know all of it. And the way that he communicates it, it's not the quantum physicist's version, it's the layman's version, and it's articulated beautifully. So Colin, how did all of this occur to you? Because you were a normal guy before. What's normal? But but so the story of your enlightenment, would you, or your awakening to consciousness, could you share a little bit about it for us?
yeah, sure. Just in 2003, I had a kind of epiphany of sorts. uh, People can go onto my website and see the full video on how it all happened. But what, what essentially happened, I was contacted by a higher dimensional being who told me he was there, he was going to train me in consciousness because he said I had some work to do on this planet. So I did what he told me and raised my frequencies up to a certain level so that I could go and meet a higher dimensional being than him. And I did that, and I met a being who I called Aismir, because that he said in the where he comes from, people don't have names like they do here. People are recognized by their resonant signature. And so he said his resident signature was Aismir, which means I means one, As means azure, blue, and Mir means mirror, mirror reflecting. So he is representing the oneness of the Azurites and reflecting that back to me. So he was a blue avian being from Sirius B. So, and it just turned out that as we got to know each other, he explained that he was me before I incarnated here.
Oh, wow. So that's the dual reality by locating on a quantum scale, right?
Yeah, so he explained that he had bilocated here to be me, and then had the experiences that humans have. But he told me it was time for him to wake me up and to start teaching me to do the work that I was going to do. And the work that I was going to do was it's called grid work. It's basically being a guardian and of the ley lines of the planet.
Okay.
And there were a whole group of us who volunteered to do this. It was 144,000 of us around the planet.
Right.
And we all had a certain grid line or ley line that we had to look after. And mine was the ley line between Basra in Iraq and the Stargate in the South Pole. So, basically what we were doing, because the Earth's magnetic grids had been shifted off the rotational axis of the Earth, we had to reestablish the Earth's grid lines. ley lines based on its true magnetic fields and not the rotational spin. So I did that for 8 years, and I didn't think I'd be doing what I'm doing now. But in 2014, I was told that our work had been successful and being complete, and that we were now to do whatever we wished to do. And so I said, well, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, go tell everybody how it works. So that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing now.
Well, and I've watched you grow so much. I could tell you pushed through a lot of fear, and your presentation is really refined now. You can really tell a difference. I've watched you grow into this because it is frightening. I mean, I think that's a big part of all of us pushing through to do our soul mission. Is we have to have a lot of courage, and we have to listen and feel into it, right?
Yeah. You know, one has one's normal anxieties and fears that do come up. And so you just have to deal with that, you know, and press on and do your best.
Yeah.
But I do feel that the information I have can be valuable at this time on this planet, because it really is about bio-spiritual energetics and how that works. You know.
So I want to ask, I do have a list of questions, but I'm going to detour a little bit. I want to ask what they had you do to raise your energy so that your higher consciousness could come in. Was there a dietary change or a meditation change? Was there something like that?
That was a small part of it. The most difficult part of it is actually re-establishing your integrity and your authenticity. So you have to peel away all those layers of pretense that you have about who you are not. Because many people here on the planet are just pretending to be someone that they're not.
Right.
But from the perspective of we are all souls, and we have everyone has a unique resonance.
Right.
And we lose track of that because we're getting indoctrinated with a false identity. Because when we're born here, we're given a name, and that name becomes a name in all capital letters on our birth certificates, and then we trade it on the international financial markets as commodities, and we enter into this matrix that it's a kind of a Truman Show, really,
right.
Where we are just being controlled and we're slaves. So re-establishing one's own authenticity and integrity is really the starting point that one has to go to raise your frequencies, because in our soul body we have a central vertical energy, they call it, but that, if you know the toroid, it's that donut shaped ring where energy spins around.
Yeah.
And in the center of the toroid we have a portal called the 0 point energy. And the 0 point of the portal is where you are able to bring down information from the universe and push it into the Earth's grids. So we can effectively then bring energy down from energies that are coming in and push that into the Earth's grids. And then, of course, it returns. It comes back up again. Yeah. So we're getting information both ways, from the Earth and from our higher selves. And in order to keep that integrity, it's like a tuning fork on a musical instrument. Every time you hit the tuning fork, it resonates at a certain frequency. And so we have to establish that frequency so that we are recognized. So that becomes our calling sign to the universe. They recognize that integrity. Okay, because it's unique in the universe, so they know who you are. So it's like a radio system in a sense, you know, that we connect with the universe by establishing that integrity. And to establish that integrity, one has to have higher sense of values. So all your values have to change, and you have to establish new values and what is important to you, and what the rules and the standards you want to live by. And for instance, in 2006, after 3 years of training, and I was told to start my good work, my higher self suggested to me that I establish my standard as anything less than love is not acceptable.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And so that became my standard. And so I had to judge myself in those terms. So if I was being unloving or unkind or impatient or unfaithful and disloyal to other people, then I had to really bring myself under that banner of standard, because the standard's like the flag you carry into battle. It establishes your identity. So you have to have very high levels, high standards of integrity and authenticity, but also be aware of how the matrix notions, the outside world can pull you off that very easily, to comply with it. With things like diet, for instance, people say you should, use foods to, or eat the right foods in order to raise your frequency. But that's not necessarily true. Once you raise your soul frequencies, you raise automatically your biochemical feed system in your body. Okay, so those were some of the things I had to learn and try to practice, and that was really tough because prior to waking up, I was not really a candidate for being a guru or teacher or anything like that. I was a pretty naughty boy, and
Well, that way you can have compassion for all the naughty people.
Yeah.
Well, I want to let you know that we do have some people here. Dina Rupert DeLuco is here, and Cheryl Stegman's here. And Dina wrote, "Anything less than love is not acceptable," so that everyone will get to see that. And there's some other people on, but I wanted to know. So Colin, I feel I'm psychic and intuitive, and I use timelines. The way that I work with people is I get to see, if I'm supposed to help somebody get their work out in the world like you, I get actually a movie. I hook up is their best contribution this lifetime. It's all aligned to their highest good. But they're here, and I do a plan to get them here, but I don't always get them here. Do you have, because I am part of your consciousness class. I am so fortunate that I get to get videos and learning from you on a regular basis. How do you get them, I can hold the space, and I am given energy to help them manifest it in 3D. So all of that wonderful magic is there, but they aren't there. And I've been doing this for 19 years, so I know that you have this answer. I don't know if I'll understand it, but it's me holding the space and mirroring back to them this future state at that frequency and the possibility of it, then building the construct so it can occur. But then the next part is them being not in fear to be that.
Yeah.
So
that's perfect, actually. The biggest problem, I think, and I often post this and write about this, that the thing that people fear most is their power, not their weaknesses. Yeah. And because when they start to come into their power, they push back, because their power automatically leads them into a zone that they don't want to go into. Because it's so foreign to this world.
Because it's so far into this world? Is that what
foreign?
Foreign. Okay. So is part of your education to have us be able to handle that power? Is that part of what see, how about that? Cool. I'm so excited. I love what you teach. I love the way you teach it. I love how it isn't fluffy. I love that it's not um, unattainable. It's very what I know. And you have combined a lot of the things I already knew, but in a clarity level. So
Yeah,
I want to share your website here and let everyone know that's on the call right now that they have the possibility to also learn alongside of me and a handful, I don't know how many people, 100 other people, but we all came here and embodied it exactly this time to do this. And
yeah,
it's time. It's very much time.
yeah.
So,
I, I think about a third of the people on this planet are actually souls from other higher dimensions who came here like me and forgot who they were, you know. So what I'm trying to do is wake people up, you know, find your real true power, you know. And our power is not power to um, over people or to change the elements, although we can do that, you know. We can learn how to change, bring
right,
in rain, stop rain, all sorts of things we can learn to do because we are made of orgone energy that Dr. Wilhelm Reich speaks about.
right.
And so we can establish these lines of energy from ourselves to the ether. Now, the ether is the space all around us. That's what carries all the information. That's what, you know, basically, it's the fifth state of water, the ether.
Right.
And if we would understand that, in a sense, we are swimming underwater, and the water is ether.
Ah, I re-listened to those 3 manifestation videos yesterday, so I could really be immersed in this. And I got that. Somehow I was like, oh yeah, just think of it like water. I really, that's bizarre that you just said that. Thank you. So Dolores Hunt Cornish says, love to you, Colin Joe. Great to see you today. Looking good, my friend. And then Sony Ade says hi. So, and then Dolores just said, I've just realized something about myself from something you said a bit earlier. Thank you. So if you are on this broadcast and you have questions to ask, please type them in because you're being gifted with a rare opportunity to ask questions from a master who has a perspective that could change all the victimization on this earth. It could change everything. You could co-create with the universe at the highest level and create heaven on earth, which is, I think, dreaming the new dream. That's what I think we came here for, is that this whole lesson of it. So,
Yeah.
so please. So Colin, if we're in the matrix, are you saying that most of the work that we'll do when we find and clear our note, I want to call it a musical note almost, the resonant frequency, when it doesn't have all the spirit chords around it or waves around it, when it's clear, are we still in the matrix or are we out of it?
In a sense, we're in it with our bodies are still in the matrix, but when our souls are not in the matrix, they're not in the matrix. So we can get our soul bodies out of the matrix, but unfortunately, our physical bodies we're in this world. But it's like Jesus said, be in the world, but not of the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he demonstrated a lot of the magnificent powers that we have, where we can manifest wine, food, whatever we need. But are you seeing that that's in our lifetime that this is going to happen? I know the new kids coming in are already closer to being awake than we are. We've been here so long that we've taken on the constructs.
I didn't catch the first part of your question, so I'm not sure what you're
Well,
asking, Kathy.
I guess it feels that my knowing is that we all stood in line to get these bodies to be here right now to help usher this time in. But I also know that the children coming in, do not have the baggage and they may have some childhood trauma, but they don't have the construct that we had. So
Yeah,
our soul wanted to go through these lessons, if you want to call them that, with these constructs in order to have that perspective to share, to build.
yeah.
But the new kids, how do you see us working with the new kids that way?
I think what we have to do is we have to really listen, but we mustn't listen from the perspective of the matrix, because the kids are not coming in with that perspective.
Right.
They're coming in with a higher dimensional perspective. And it might be a little difficult for most people to actually pick up on what kids are actually saying these days. We're judging them based on the values of this, our external reality. But if we can deal with them from the heart level, and listen to their hearts, and listen from our hearts, and speak from our hearts, and let them hear from their hearts, if we can establish that heart connection, I think that will be a far better way, rather than trying to squeeze them into a mold of conformity, so that they can express themselves fully in an ethical way, with high standards and high values, because that is the best way to establish to deal with kids, because all kids actually want that.
Right.
But
Right.
they're just not seeing it.
Right. Well, this is what Marianne St. Clair just said. The new kids are working with us and teaching us. And Zach Bergen is here. Yay, Zach. I'd love some comments from you. Dolores says, again, being authentic is what she's seeing. That's how to work with them. But I feel that they don't have the fear to co-create with their superpowers. They're very comfortable. Whereas I didn't let people know that I was psychic and intuitive. I was afraid to get locked up or drugged or whatever. So I kept my knowing under lock and key until I felt it was safe, or I just couldn't hold it anymore. It was so hard to hold my truth wasn't being.
Yeah.
Marianne says adults think they know more.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter from what level you have information. My information might be I might have more information than other people, but it doesn't matter how much information you've got. It's how you live it that's important, because people will believe what they see rather than believe what they hear. So if they can see that you are living the life that you are preaching, basically, or teaching, then it makes it much easier for them to follow you. So we have to be our own monitors, as it were, to monitor our own integrity and authenticity, to be in complete honesty with ourselves and the people around us, to be transparent. So yeah, that's basically where we have to go to, I think.
So Zach wrote a long one. Are you ready? He said, as soon as we think of terms of us and them or some kind of separate wavelength, then you polarize the space or created an orthog. Here goes. orthogonal situation. Being conscious covers all the bases. I'm not a fan of labels and anything that creates separation. There is no separation, only the illusion of separation that we may create or not. In terms of the matrix, I work in that space every day. So that's where you're saying by being authentic and working on being working from love in every aspect, you can be in this body as well as connecting to your soul higher.
Yeah. Yeah, people who have jobs and living in the 3D world on a day-to-day basis, they really have to be, have that standard. They have to raise the standards here. I don't know why we accept war and why we accept murder and why we accept, because war and murder are the same thing. It's killing of people. Why do we accept that? And so we have to raise new standards here where, and the thing is, as the person said, we're not separate. We are the same thing. We are one thing. And when we all embody the same consciousness, we feed that consciousness into the Earth's grids, and the Earth's grids pushes it out. So the universe is reading what's happening here and will give more of what is happening here.
Okay. So I have a question for you, though, and Zach's typing away, so I can tell you a little bit, and Dolores also. But how the construct here that's so full of polarity, in my knowing, we're in 3D, then 4D also has polarity, and then 5D is where we're going. 5D and higher has love and co-creating with the universe. And so I think the dilemma for most people, if they came here specifically, they could have stayed in non-physical. They could have stayed in higher dimensions. They came here right now to do this work in one of the biggest shows in the universe, because we're ascending embodied instead of waiting until we leave the construct and ascending. So how do you, so you're saying honesty, love, truth, but so he says, Zach put, the karma dramas indicate the level of the collective consciousness. It's not there yet. Just be there yourself.
Yeah.
Is that?
One has to be self-monitored, because I'm not responsible for other people's behavior, and I'm not responsible for their destiny or their future. I can only be responsible for myself. But having said that, we have a co-responsibility to be responsible.
Well, but we came here to experience the contrast. That's what's so confusing, is like, if you think about the history of man, it's not it's history, not her story too, so, but we came here to experience and have all those choices. We did. And somehow, if this is, I don't know if this is true, but they say you picked everything before you embodied. You picked your parents. You picked the whole construct. How do you deal with that? Anyway.
Well,
there's a lot of. Darlis is on. My dear friend Darlis Mays is on too, who you know too, and Dolores is also. They're commenting back and forth, which is great. So anyway, I'll tell you when the next pertinent one is. Thank you.
Right. I think in my own experience, my higher self told me that when I incarnated here, I incarnated with a soul template. And that soul template is the same soul template that all conscious beings have in the universe. It's a universal design. And that in our soul template is who we really are. We are not the people that we think we are based on the indoctrination we've had here. So we have to really get back into that sense of who we are and what we are and what we're doing here. and that comes from establishing one's integrity and authenticity and listening to your heart, listening to your intuition, because your intuition is your third eye, and that's very much a part of your soul signaling system. It's how the soul body communicates to our physical bodies through the pineal gland and through the thymus gland. The thymus controls communicates the emotional information to the soul body and collects the information from the soul body. And the third eye collects the thought energy, the information, the thought information that we get and we transmit out. So, we have in our soul bodies all the resources we need in order to live a happy, fulfilled, and peaceful life. We can use it to create, we can use it to manifest, but we just have to learn how. But we can't, even if we learn how, if we're not resonating at our soul resonance signature, then we'll never have that ability to contact. So we have to establish that first. And to do that, you have to watch your thoughts, you have to watch your emotions, you have to be, consciously aware of what you're thinking and what you are feeling, what you're saying and what you're doing, and to watch all those things. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did I think that? Why did I feel that? Is that genuinely me, or is that my indoctrination that's conditioned me to do that, or to think that, or say that? So it's a tough job to establish one's own integrity and authenticity. But I encourage people to do that. I did a course with Jeff Cloud for a long time on just that, on how to establish one's own integrity and soul identity. But my higher selves have told me that I must go do a course now, which will go through all the information they gave me over a period of time, which is a lot of information. But so I've started the first course I've just completed. It was a webinar, and it's called The Mechanics of Creation.
Right.
So people can go on my website and subscribe to that. Then I'm going to do a new course in February, where I'll be dealing with this exact thing: how to raise your frequencies, and how manifestation works, and how you can practically manifest in your life. Because it is all about frequency. Because we live in a hologram. Our experience here is holographic. It's
Right.
not physical, reality. It appears physical because that's the nature of physics. The split hole experiment demonstrated that when waves are observed, they appear as particles. So we are actually waveforms in our soul body, but what we are observing consciously are particles. So we are observing a physical reality that is actually a construct,
Right.
that is a universal construct. It's hard to kind of grasp that, but that's how it works.
Well, it isn't hard to grasp it because of the movie The Matrix and some of the tech stuff of having the holodeck and the hologram. I think a lot of those seeds that were planted in our consciousness allowed us to understand the construct. What's difficult is staying in love and staying out of fear in it. That's what I think the journey from fear to love is, that it seems like it's only this far, but it's almost like a muscle you have to keep exercising and working with in order to ground it, because that matrix is it's scary. It isn't in love. It's high contrast all the time, and antagonistic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but we changing that. The consciousness of the planet is being raised by many, many people, and each one's contribution is important.
Right.
Because it's an energetic system. That energy gets fed into the Earth's grids, it comes back again, goes out to the universe, and we get more of.
Right.
So we are doing that process of raising the consciousness of this planet.
Okay. So I want you to know, Darlis said, thank you, Colin, for your teachings, books, courses, and all also helpful for our direction, which of course, and Darlis is one of my best friends. So there we go. And then Kathy Botchman just joined. Hi, Kath. And it says, I would like to know more about, oh, darn, it just blipped. Hold on a second. I would like to know more about frequency modulation as how to increase our frequencies. I find it difficult how to understand this.
Yeah.
Frequency
Okay.
modulation.
Okay. Basically, frequency modulation works on the basis that you send out a carrier wave, and on that carrier wave, you can send out another wave of information. That's how frequency modulation is FM radio, and that's how they invented the ability to have stereo radio. So you have two waves. So one is the carrier wave, and the other one is the information wave. That actually, so the one establishes the connection with the receiving device, whatever it is, television, radio, or whatever it is, and the information wave sends out the information. So in our soul bodies, our integrity is the carrier wave. Okay, so if we haven't established that carrier wave, we're not going to have the frequency in our body. So that's the most important thing for us to do, is to establish that carrier wave, or the integrity, or that resonance that is genuinely ourselves. And then all the information in our soul bodies, in our thoughts and emotions, can get carried up and down and pushed around. You can actually play with it.
Yeah, that's what, see, I like the alchemy of all of that. That's what I was saying, that I get a package of energy to bring it into form. That's what that is. Stephen Bross, hi Steve, is here too, and he's a great, you would love all these people that are commenting. Hi Colin and Kathy, thanks for this very cool conversation. Where does grief work fit in or not into your paradigm?
Where does what fit in?
Grief, as sadness and grief. Grief work.
Okay. Grief and sadness are just emotions, and they're natural emotions. Okay. And if we become emotionally competent, we'll understand their place in our emotional body. Now, in order to become emotionally competent, you have to understand emotions. And I did a show once with Kerry K. Samadhi on emotional. We called it emotional competence. And there was I gave her a spreadsheet, which.
I have that. Yeah, I can share that probably here too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And basically, it's got various questions. The first question is, have you felt this emotion? And then the next question is, rate this frequency of this emotion from, high frequency, medium, low. And then by sorting it, you can sort out all those emotions that you've never personally felt. And then you have to do the exercise of feeling those emotions. Because if you've never felt those emotions, you don't know what those emotions are. You don't know what they feel like in your body. You can't empathize with other people who are having that emotion because you've never felt it yourself. Okay, and then the other question is high, low, and medium frequencies. There are very high frequency emotions and there are low frequency emotions. And about 2/3 of our emotions are in the low frequency zone. And in the mid zone, you get frequencies like grief, sadness, and these are normal, natural emotions. But if you've never felt grief, how can you manage grief? It's only those who have felt grief who really understand what it feels like to grieve, or sadness. And we all feel sadness at some time in our lives, and that's a genuine emotion. But it's just part of our emotional body. It's like it's part of the soul body, and we have to learn how to use the emotions and to be appropriate with our emotions, and how to feel our emotions in a genuine way, and to help us to empathize with other people in an authentic way, so that we don't pat them on the head and say, I feel what you're feeling, but you don't. because you've never felt that feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, so one
So-
has to really work on that to become emotionally competent.
So, Steve, cool. Do you have recommendations how to access repressed emotion, healing from numb?
Depression to me is not an emotion.
This
Depression to me is a
repressed.
state of mind.
Sorry, a second. It's repressed, as in the emotions that were not, that were stuffed,
Yeah,
and they weren't. They were repressed.
yeah. Well, essentially what's happened here on this planet, because we've been indoctrinated, we, we've been conditioned to think our emotions and not to feel them.
Right. Feel that.
So
Yep.
we, we don't genuinely feel our emotions, and repression of emotions is just part of what they want to do to humanity here, the controllers. They don't want us to feel our emotions because our emotions are very powerful. They're the magnetic waves in the torus around our body, that comes like a wave. It goes around the emotional body, this donut ring, it goes around it and it keeps all the thought energy, the electrons flowing around the torus.
Right.
And it's very much a part of our way. And it's like playing a musical instrument. You must learn to play the bass notes as well as the treble notes. So you go up and down the scales. And you can't play the treble unless you played the bass, and then you don't know the relationship between the treble and the bass, then you don't really understand music. And in a sense, we're like musical instruments. We're meant to feel those emotions of repression, of sadness, of grief, and we're meant to break out of them and not stay in those states, because they're just states of mind or states of emotion. And
Right.
we're conditioned to believe that we don't have the power to get out of that.
Mm.
And we have to learn that we have that power.
Yeah, that suffering. That suffering is it's that program of victimization and suffering is pretty powerful that we've been living in. So Jade Rader, who's also a dear friend of mine, she says, "Mahalo, Colin and Kathy, for this expansive conversation." So we got some great people on here. And then there was another one that Zach said, okay, Zach says, "Don't worry about technical terms. Increasing love is increasing frequency and the ability to manifest in more beauty, structure, complexity. Work on the inner journey and just ask yourself, what is the most loving thing I can do right now? That's it. Enjoy."
Yeah, he's absolutely right. It's the inner work we do that determines what we experience in the outer world.
Yep. Yep.
People have the other way. They have their eyes on the world outside of them. They think that's going to change who they are, but it doesn't work the other way. When you change yourself, you change your outer experience.
Okay, so what Kathy Botchman just wrote, I have a question about love. I often feel love, and she has it in quotation, that is physical, but does not feel like an emotion. I call it the loving feeling, is what she
Yeah,
said.
I had that dilemma as well when I kind of was waking up, and my higher self said, if you want to understand love, you have to understand the subharmonics of love.
Okay.
So I said, what do you mean by that? He said, love is patient. When you're patient, you're showing love. When you're kind, you're showing love. When you're joyful, you're showing love. When you're peaceful, you're showing love. So all these subharmonics of love are love. There is no one great thing called love. Love is everything. Love is the instrument we play all the various frequencies on,
Right.
and it goes from the highest to the lowest. And if you want to know if you are loving, if you want to feel love, then be patient with next time you feel impatient, or be kind when you're being challenged to be kind, or be understanding when you're being challenged to be understanding. That is love.
Right.
So if you want to feel love, you must do love.
Well, that's what when a lot of the work is to see what triggers you, and then look at that from another perspective of
Yeah,
what is the gift in it, or how could I flip it to a different context, because that everything has everything's in your field for you. I truly believe that this is school, and I did want to get an A, but I don't know anymore. But I mean, the thing is everything that is in your awareness has a gift for you. I truly believe that. So
yeah,
Zach put, yes, Colin. So we are aligned. Love has increased, and that's huge progress. Best to you, brother. Awesome vibration. And then Kathy put, yes, it is everything. This is still talking about love. I feel it is the most powerful thing that there is. And then Dolores wrote, love, love, love your answer, Colin. Beautiful. Grieving for my dad finally after 47 years. A part of being authentic, finally.
yeah.
These are wonderful. People are really opening up. Thank you all, everyone. And Colin, thank you so much. So we're almost to the end of our hour, and I'd love to make sure that people know, make sure that they know that everything that you do is available to them as well, and it's a journey that we welcome as many people as possible to to experience. And I think what they'll find is that each time they listen to you, they get another nugget. That's what I've gotten. And I've listened to everything, I think. I mean, I haven't missed, if I missed it live, I've listened to it later instead of anything else at night while I'm eating dinner. You're like you're my Truman Show. Because I feel that your context is accessible to me. I don't have to do Krishnamurti, who I it's like painful. It's not, you're not trying to be a guru. You're a way shower.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Cheryl Stegman said, wow, this seemed like it was 5 minutes that we went. And then Stephen says, thank you. I've been focusing on reviving and sharing my love of and connection to Jesus, not church, since he is such a tuning fork for us. What's your view of his teachings and how they can help us?
On the thing they had?
Jesus.
Oh,
He's talking about, he's been working on his connection to Jesus, but not the church, but the man Jesus.
yeah. Well, you know, the Jesus phenomena here, there was a person called Jeshua. Yeah, his name was actually Yeshua. And he wasn't born to Mary and Joseph, he was born to another couple. And then there was a Jeshua with a J, who was born of Mary and Joseph. And they lived at the same time. And one was a 12-stranded avatar, and the one was a 9-stranded I forgot the name. Yeah, just escaped me. Rishi. Sorry, Jesus. One Jesus, Yeshua, was a 12-stranded Rishi, and the other one was a 9-stranded avatar. And they lived at the same time, and their lives were very much interlinked. And the one Jesus rose from the dead, and the other Jesus died on the cross. Or sorry, the one Jesus ascended into heaven through Giza, and the other one died on the cross. And they confused the one with the other. They continuously, and their stories are so interlinked that they've become one story at the moment. But they were both higher beings. They both taught very good teachings. The Yeshua was an Essene, so he taught, grew up amongst the Essenes, and he traveled to India and places like that afterwards. So, you know, we haven't been told the true story of Jesus, but you can connect with the Christos energy, because that's what he was coming here to tell us about, is about the Christos energy. Now, the Christos energy is the central vertical energy of the universe that connects all things together. Okay, that's the Christos. So when you connect with yourself and in integrity with yourself, you're connecting with the Christos. Okay, so if you want to connect with Christ, connect, be integritous with yourself, have higher standards and higher values, and then you are connecting with the Christ within you, because that's who you want to be.
Right. Of course.
There's no Christ out there to connect to. You are it.
Right. And the expression of it is the journey, right? That's what I was talking about with polarity, is when you see where you aren't it.
Yeah.
And then you can go back to, oh, I fell off the bus, I need to get back on. So that's wonderful. Okay, so Colin, I want to make sure I'm putting your website up again, and just so you know, there is an opportunity to pay a very small fee and get special work from Colin. He's been so generous with me. I've had a one-on-one with him on Zoom. I feel like I know him really well. After all this, he's very authentic and very available to all of us that are the way showers for this new time, and to get the support we need and the understanding to make it through this, because we all came here on purpose to do this.
Yeah. And late last year in October, my higher self said to me, if you want to be more effective, you must collaborate. So start collaborating, be available and work with other people,
Right.
Be involved in their work, let them be involved in your work. And when the beings on this planet begin to collaborate, they create an energy which is exponentially greater than the sum of the parts. So that's what I'm doing. So that's why I make myself available. I want people. I want to collaborate. I want to communicate with people and be involved with what they're involved in, and speak with them. So we increase the energy on the planet and increase the frequency. And the way we do that is by connecting with each other. By speaking with each other and learning from each other. And that's what we have to do.
Yes. I just came back from a long weekend that you would have just loved. It's called the Co-Creators. The Co-Creators Convergence. And this was my 6th year. They've done 7. And that's exactly what it is. And people from all different levels of consciousness show up. And we co-create, and it's like dreaming a different dream. This one was on the shadow. It was on your voice, and next year is going to be on the third eye. So you might want to come to America for it in next June, because it's a small band of dreamers dreaming the new dream. A lot of the work was from Barbara Marx Hubbard. It originated from her work, and so there's lots of us now.
Yeah.
That are actively pursuing. Darlis is one of them. Darlis and I met doing that work. So you can tell what the frequency is. We're thrilled to be a part of all this.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Thank you so much, Colin, and everyone that's on this call, and if the people watching the replay, don't miss out on this opportunity to up level like this. I mean, this is it. 2020 is going to be really big, and a lot of the constructs of the polarity is going to be so highly visible, you can't help it. It's not invisible anymore. Right?
Yeah, it's been great speaking with you, Kathy, and I'm grateful to have been able
so much.
opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, we'll talk again soon, I'm sure. But thank you so much, Colin, and thank everybody that's been here today, and please share this message. Please, please, please share. It's time to make a new world and co-create on a very, very high scale.
Yeah.
Fine.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.